Coming up today, South Korea prepares to bid farewell to former President Kim Young-sam at his state funeral. Several thousand people will attend this afternoon's ceremony at the National Assembly. The two Koreas are set to hold working-level talks today. It's hoped the meeting can be the springboard for cross-border governmental talks down the road. Plus, as tensions simmer, Turkey releases audio of its warnings to the Russian warplane it downed. But the surviving Russian pilot insists he never received any of them. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Thursday, the 26th of November. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broome. And we start this afternoon with the state funeral for late former President Kim Young-sam. Official proceedings will get underway in around 2 hours' time at the National Assembly in Seoul. Korea has been observing 5 days of mourning for Kim, a proud fighter for democracy, since he passed away in the early hours of Sunday morning. Our reporter Ji Myung-gil is covering the funeral for us today, so let's go over to him for the details. Myung-gil.
Good afternoon, Mark. As you mentioned, Korea is bidding farewell to former President Kim Young-sam this afternoon. Ahead of the state funeral, we hear that Kim's extended family will have been holding prayers at a modest ritual at Seoul National University Hospital this morning. A hearse carrying Korea's 14th president will leave there in around 90 minutes' time and bring him here to the National Assembly. The hearse will make its way from the hospital through Gwanghwamun in central Seoul before arriving in Yeouido, where the National Assembly is located. This route was chosen to keep traffic congestion to a minimum. The funeral ceremony itself will begin at 2 p.m. Korea time. Once the hearse arrives in front of the Assembly's main gate, a military band will begin to play. Kim's family will follow behind the funeral car into the ceremonial altar that has been prepared for the late president.
Myung-gil, this is the first state funeral held in Korea since the State Funeral Act was revised around 1 year ago, so it will be a grand farewell to the former president. And just looking at your position there, it appears you are standing in front of the area where the ceremony will take place.
Yes, that's right. Behind me is a stage that has been set up for the outdoor ceremony. This area will be packed with mourners from all walks of life, including former and current political and business leaders when the funeral begins. The funeral is expected to last around 90 minutes. Some 10,000 people are expected to attend, including guests invited by the government, such as foreign dignitaries, and guests invited by Kim's family. The ceremony is invitation only, but the public can watch from a distance. We'll be broadcasting the funeral here on Arirang TV from 2 p.m. Korea time as well. According to the wishes of Kim's family, the state funeral will be a simple affair, and the government will not hold a separate ceremony in Kim's neighborhood of Sangdo-dong. After the ceremony, the funeral procession will stop by at the late president's home in Sangdo-dong and the Kim Young-sam Memorial Library in Dongjak, both in Seoul, before heading to Seoul's National Cemetery, where Kim will be laid to rest. Mark?
Well, thank you very much for that report, Myung-gil. Now, as we just heard in our report, former President Kim Young-sam will be buried at the Seoul National Cemetery. For more on this and the significance of the location of Kim's burial site, our Lee Ji-won reports.
3 former presidents have already been laid to rest at Seoul National Cemetery. As well as the nation's leaders, the cemetery is where tens of thousands of patriots from Korea's independence movement and fallen soldiers from the Korean and Vietnam Wars are buried. The cemetery is located in Dongjak-gu district, and its U-shaped ridge is described as a phoenix protecting its eggs. According to the head arranger of Kim Young-sam's grave, the site has good feng shui and is in the area representing the phoenix's eggs. Kim Young-sam will be buried around 300 meters to the right of Lee Seung-man and Kim Dae-jung, Korea's 1st and 15th presidents, respectively. Further up, 500 meters away, lies former President Park Chung-hee, father of current President Park Geun-hye. with many bidding farewell, may Korea's 14th president rest in peace under the wings of Phoenix. 이지원, Arirang News.
Now, in the rest of the day's news, the two Koreas were set to begin working level talks at the inter-Korean border this morning, but the start appears to have been delayed. The meeting has been a long time in the works, with Seoul having to wait 2 months for Pyongyang to respond to its offers. The hope is that the two sides can arrange some high-level talks in the near future. Let's get the details from our Song Ji-sun, who is on the line at the Unification Ministry in central Seoul. So, Ji-sun, we were expecting these talks to start at 10:30, but they didn't. What was the hold-up?
Good afternoon, Mark. 3 officials from Seoul's delegation left the South Inter-Korean Dialogue headquarters at 8 this morning to hold talks on the northern side of the tourist village of Panmunjom. But the talks are being delayed as there are technical problems in communication lines there. We have no further details on what exactly are causing the glitch. But when the talks begin, Kim Ki-woong, head of South Korea's Unification Ministry Special Office for Inter-Korean Dialogue, and Hwang Chul, a senior North Korean official from the Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of Korea, will be leading the talks. The aim of the meeting is to lay the groundwork for talks between more senior government officials. The level of officials is likely to be the bone of contention. Seoul has proposed ministerial-level talks between Unification Minister Hong Yong-pyo and his North Korean counterpart Kim Yang-gun, but we'll have to see if the North accepts that. What to include on the agenda could be another stumbling block. Top of Seoul's priority list is reunions for war-separated families. The South Korean government wants them to be held on a regular basis, but North Korea is more interested in getting South Korea back to resume its Kumgang resort. Seoul halted tours to the mountain after a South Korean tourist was shot dead by a North Korean soldier in 2008. Today's talks are in line with an agreement reached on August 25th, in which the two sides pledged to accelerate government talks to improve inter-Korean relations. We could be in the long haul for today, too, with the last working-level talks between the two Koreas in 2013 went through the night. And we probably won't be getting any details until later this evening, but I'll be sure to keep you updated in our later newscasts. Back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Ji-sun, for that report. Now to the latest on the downing of a Russian warplane on the Turkey-Syria border. The Turkish military has released an audio recording that it claims is one of several warnings it issued to the Russian jet before it was shot down. The voice on the recording commands the Russian jet to change course and move out of Turkish airspace. Now, this comes hours after the rescued Russian co-pilot said that he got no warnings from Turkey and that he continued to fly over Syrian territory. Russia has characterized the incident as a planned provocation and deployed its S-400 missile system to a Syrian airbase as part of its aerial bombing campaign in Syria. The base is around 50 kilometers from the Turkish border, and the missiles have a range of 400 kilometers, which of course puts Turkish territory well within striking distance. Now, Korea's Ministry of Environment has confirmed that Volkswagen installed emissions cheating software in diesel vehicles sold here in Korea. Announcing its probe results on Thursday, ministry officials said they found so-called defeat devices in some models produced by the German auto giant. The 15 models confirmed with the cheating device were Euro 5 models with an older EA189 model. The affected models include the popular Tiguan model. But no cheating devices were found in Euro 6 models, including Golf, Jetta, Beetle and Audi A3. The ministry has ordered a recall of more than 125,000 vehicles equipped with the old engine, while imposing a sales ban on those cars as well. The ministry also slapped Volkswagen with a $12.3 million fine. Now, global commodity prices have hit a 13-year low due to the global economic slowdown, and that in turn is leading to a supply glut and bankruptcy, in fact, at many raw materials companies. And as our Gwonsoa reports, the downward trend is likely to continue for a while.
The Commodity Research Bureau Index, which measures the general direction of commodity prices, dove down to 183.4 earlier this week. That's the lowest since November 2002 and a decline of 61% from July 2008, right before the global financial crisis. The formula includes prices of copper, steel, and crude oil. The U.S. benchmark West Texas Intermediate dipped to $41.75 a barrel on Monday, even getting down to the $40 range last week. Weak demand due to slowing growth in the global economy, especially in the world's second-largest economy, China, and the ongoing uncertainty about a potential U.S. rate hike are cited as the main reasons for the price drop. That in turn has led to an oversupply at many raw materials companies, which are already struggling to pay off their debt. According to data from Standard & Poor's, 99 global companies have defaulted so far this year, a record high since during the global financial crisis. 40 of those were in the raw materials industry. The number of commodity firms hit by a credit rating downgrade by S&P this year was 155, compared to the 99 companies in 2009. The situation isn't looking much better in Korea, as recent local data shows more than 30% of downgraded companies were commodities firms.
Normally, the drop in commodity prices would have a positive effect on Korea, as it's a big importer of raw materials. But countries that produce raw materials are struggling, and that's hurt Korea's exports, which means the price decline has limited effects on Korea.
The expert added if the U.S. does raise interest rates in December, as widely expected, it will strengthen the greenback, thus prolonging the global drop in commodity prices. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Now, staying with economic news, Korea's consumer sentiment improved for a fifth straight month in November. The Bank of Korea's Composite Consumer Sentiment Index ticked up to 106 this month, up 1 point from October. A reading above 100 indicates that optimists outnumber pessimists. After dropping below the benchmark in June when the MERS outbreak was at its peak, the figure has since been on an upward trend. You're looking at the graph there. The central bank says the rise comes on the back of government initiatives aimed at boosting spending, such as a Black Friday sales event held last month. The data also shows Koreans have a more positive outlook on income and spending and a gloomier view of the domestic economy. Lotte Group will have its first hearing in Japan on this Thursday in regards to the ongoing family feud at the top of Korea's fifth largest conglomerate. With authority from the group's elderly founder, Shin Gyok-ho, his eldest son, Shin Dong-ju, has filed a suit seeking nullification of his father's removal as CEO of Lotte Holdings in Japan. The eldest son claims the dismissal is invalid because he was not notified of the emergency board meeting during which his younger brother Dong-bin was given control over the group. The hearing will start in about 1 hour's time at the Tokyo District Court. In addition to this and the 3 lawsuits filed in Korea against the younger brother, the eldest son has also filed a separate case against Takayuki Tsukuda, president of Lotte Holdings. The eldest son claims Tsukuda gave incorrect and exaggerated information about him to his father over the course of his dismissal from 26 key positions at Japanese units. Now, Korean workers with the so-called hungry spirit were some of the key drivers of the country's rapid economic growth in recent decades. But those workers appear to be losing steam as Asia's fourth largest economy continues to suffer a major exodus of talent. Son Jung-in has more.
Korea may be at risk of losing its global competitiveness because of a sharp drop in the domestic workforce. That's according to the annual World Talent Report by the Swiss-based Institute for Management Development. Korea moved up 9 notches from last year to place 31st among the 61 countries on the list for its ability to develop, attract, and retain talent. Switzerland remained at the top of the list, with Denmark, Luxembourg, Norway, and the Netherlands making the top 5. The study assesses 3 aggregate factors: investment and development, appeal, and readiness, derived from various indicators including education, employee training, brain drain, worker motivation, and quality of life. Korea scored a 3.98 out of 10 on the brain drain index, putting it at 44th. The lower the score, the more likely it is that highly educated people with engineering and science degrees will leave their homeland. But the most serious problem may be workers' lack of motivation. Korea placed 54th in that category, ranking near the bottom of the list with Slovenia and Argentina. So what's the reason for the brain drain? Experts cite Korea's poor corporate and research environment as the main factors. According to a survey by the Korea International Trade Association last year, over 90% of highly educated people want to work overseas, with their main reasons being acquisition of advanced knowledge and higher salaries. They also cited Korea's long work hours and job instability as reasons for wanting to leave the country. On a positive note, Korea scored relatively high marks on the World Talent Report in such areas as skilled labor, public spending on education, and health-related infrastructure. The rankings are based on competitiveness-related data, including an in-depth survey of more than 4,000 executives in the 61 countries covered by the study. 손정인, Arirang News.
Well, it's pretty much all we have for you today. Just a reminder that at 2 p.m. Korea time, in about an hour and 45 minutes from now, we will be bringing you live coverage of Kim Young-sam's state funeral. He, of course, was the 14th president of Korea. Well, thank you, as always, for watching. Goodbye.